Hello, welcome back to Motive Manipulation Methods. In this part, we're going to be talking about common tone and leading tone modulations. Now, this isn't an actual motive manipulation method. This is going to lead up into talking about chromatic and diatonic reharmonization and chromatic transposition. And we need to cover this, how to do this first, because it's important to learn how to find possible next chord options based on common tones and leading tones. So let's start off by talking about common tones. So as the name implies, it's about finding common tones, but common tones where? Well, inside of different chords. So here is a motive we used previously. I'm going to copy it a couple times real quick. So the first note is G. Now this could be G major, which would be 1. And we're going to stick with diatonic common tones or diatonic chords with the same tone for now. So what else has a G? Well, E minor, which is 6. And then you also have C major, also has a G, which is 4. And you also have A minor, which shares an E, and that might not seem like a common tone, but if you treat this as a 2-7 chord, an A minor 7, it shares a G. So that will still work. So these are some of the diatonic chords that have the common tone G. And this may not seem like a lot, but there's a lot more when you take into all of the chromatic chords. Or if you don't think about it diatonically. Let's find every single chord that has the note G. G major. We also have G minor. We also have G dim. We also have, could do G major 7. We also have G aug, G augmented. And you could do G augmented 7 too. Let's just do that. You also have G half dim 7 and G fully dim 7. And you also have, well, that's pretty much it. But is that all? No, let's keep going. You also have E minor. You also have E flat major. And we're not going to do E dim because E dim is technically the same as G dim and G fully dim. So you have E flat major, E flat minor won't work. You could also say G7 or G4-2 if it was F on the bottom, but G7, G dominant 7. You also have C major, C minor. Then you can use A on the top, make an A7. You could also do A minor 7. And you can also do A flat major 7 and then A flat minor major 7. So yeah, so there's obviously a lot of chords with the note G. And we could have done C major and C major 7 and C dom 7 too. Let's do one more practice. Let's do this, but now the common tone being B, just to see a comparison. So we have G major again. Now we have B major, of course. We also have E major, which means we can also do E minor. And I guess I should have said B major and B minor. Now, what if the B was part of an augmented chord? Well, that would be B augmented, right? Or G augmented or D sharp or E flat augmented. All of them are the same thing, right? Then you can do, of course, diminished. So let's do all the diminished, and then diminished 7. Oops. And then half diminished. Then you can do C major 7. It could also be C sharp dom 7 as well. And of course, all of these have minor variants, right? So you could do C sharp minor 7. You could do C minor major 7, and etc., etc., etc. We started with the G major chord, but instead of using the G as the common tone, we use the B as the common chord. And you could do the same with the D for practice. So you could do like G major, D major, B minor, B flat major, G flat augmented, right? And then you keep going on and on. Now, leading tone works in a similar way, but instead of finding a common tone, what you're finding is like a chromatic tendency tone, I think is the best way to put it, because it's not an actual leading tone. It's not T do, like seventh scale degree. It's more about just anything that's a half step up or down. Usually I go half step up. So, for example, say you had this, and let's put the G on top. So up a half step would be A flat. So that could be an A flat major chord, G major to A flat major, or it could be G major to E major. If you treated that G sharp at A flat as a G sharp, right? It could also be going back to A flat. It could also be part of a D flat major chord, right? It could also be part of an F minor chord, and it could also be part of if you treat it back as a G sharp, a G to an A major 7. So those are some options for leading tone modulations. Now let's try it in second inversion this time so that the B is on top. Again, we can go to an A flat, or we could go from G to a F minor chord again. Notice how a lot of these can end up being similar, but not all of them. Because you can do this, D going to a D7, which is kind of simple. What's another one? G, D flat major. Or G to a C sharp minor major 7. Yeah, so there's a lot of different, again, with like with common tones, you're just finding different chords that'll fit with these pitches. And you're kind of, when you're practicing leading tone, you're kind of practicing finding common tone chords as well, because you're doing the first one, C, B to C, and then you're just finding different chords with the same common tone of C instead of B. And there's going to be a lot of overlap between like, the leading tone chord possibilities and the common tone chord possibilities, because a lot of these are like modulations by thirds, and thirds usually involve some sort of chromatic step happening. So yeah, so this is just a bit about common and leading tone modulations. It's called modulations because when you go to these different next chord possibilities, you technically are going to a different key center, or so modulating, right? Although diatonic is different story. But the more interesting ones are definitely going to be the chromatic ones. We'll talk more about how like different approaches you can take with the diatonics and the chromatics, but that will be saved for the next video when we talk about chromatic transposition.